things are going according to the Trump administration's plan, they want to make us afraid. I don't actually think things are going according to the Trump administration. It's actually the regime's plan. I don't think that they're going according to his plan at all. Steve Bannon, Russell Vought, Donald Trump, they thought that they would do their little shock and awe campaign and the American people would just crumple. Elon Musk thought we would. They thought that we would give up very quickly in the first couple of months. Right? That's the whole philosophy of these technocrat bros, is that we're a bunch of weak serfs and we don't know how to resist and we're lazy and we wouldn't organize against them and we would just submit and let them become our feudal overlords and, drain us dry, use us as cogs in their machine. And we're not doing that. The fact that we are seeing narcissistic crash out after narcissistic crash out from Donald Trump shows that things are not going his way. And he's real big mad about it. He's big mad. I mean, add on top of that, the fact that he's got the dwindles, he's sundowning, he's realized that his days are numbered. I talked about this a while back, but aging narcissists don't cope well with their own mortality. They don't cope well with being in decline. They need to be seen as strong and powerful and adored. And Donald Trump is aging. His body is shutting down. It's no longer working. His brain is no longer working the way it did in the past. And he is deeply, deeply unpopular. Right? That's why you're seeing this escalation of techniques. I think there's a couple of things maybe that are going on. I'm going to speculate here for just a second. One, Trump is incredibly desperate. He has been public about how desperate he is. He fears getting impeached again when the Republicans lose in the midterms. And people say, well, what does that matter? The Senate is not likely to have enough votes to convict and remove him if he is impeached in the House. A narcissist needs to feel adored and loved. He is going to perceive any impeachment as just an absolute horrific injury to his brittle, fragile ego. And there was reporting a couple of weeks ago that the regime let Trump invade Venezuela just because he was butthurt and he needed to feel big and powerful. That's a little bit, I think, about what's going on in Greenland is partially Donald Trump wanting to feel bigger and more powerful than Vladimir Putin, who he's always kind of simultaneously adored and then been jealous of, wanted to prove that he's bigger and better than Putin, even though Putin laughs at him, right? Because Putin's an actual real dictator. There's also the fact that there are relatives of folks in the regime. There are billionaires who want access to Greenland, right? There's the financial corruption, kleptocracy aspect of wanting to invade Greenland. But if we're looking at just the regime letting Donald Trump engage in these military operations or threaten them, that's all about his ego. That's all about trying to pacify him and make him feel big and powerful, just like destroying the East Wing of the White House and building that disgusting opulent ballroom that they're now planning on building. To me, when I see the attack on Venezuela, the threats against Greenland, the attack on Minnesota, and then the attack on Jerome Powell and the Fed, and I want to talk about that more tomorrow. I think people don't realize how significant that is. That's something everybody with a bank account and a 401k should be real worried about. I see all of those things as incredibly unstrategic, really desperate moves. And you could argue about whether they are actually being driven by Trump at all. You could argue about whether Donald Trump actually has the cognitive capabilities any longer to be doing that kind of strategizing. If things were going according to Donald Trump's plan, he would not be biting the heads off of reporters all of the time. He would not need to be engaging in these really frantic, harried moves that are not well planned, not well thought out, that are really undermining Republicans leading into the midterms. He wouldn't need to make these moves if he was secure and powerful and things were going well, aka Americans were submitting and letting him cement his fascist regime. He's escalating because we are resisting incredibly effectively, and that resistance movement is growing significantly, at a rapid pace. I saw this absolute ass take on TikTok earlier, and by the way, I think this is a bot account meant to demoralize people and to spread disinformation outside the US. Opinion: America's shocking silence in the face of Trump's outrages. First off, that account got absolutely owned in the comments. They were like, what silence? We're organizing people are organizing in the millions. The resistance is everywhere and growing rapidly. What the fuck are you talking about? And then when I went and clicked on their profile, it was a lot of reshares of the same exact post. And obviously it's an account with an agenda, whether or not it's a bot. But we're not submitting, we're not laying down. And the more actions the regime takes, the more they invoke a backlash effect and the more people turn against them. And the less people have to lose. You make people desperate enough, they recalculate right? They do that risk assessment and they say like, wow, I'm willing to take a lot bigger risks than I was a year ago because now I'm aware of the fact that they're going to try and take everything from us unless we stop them. But that then brings me back to the question of like, is it Trump who's driving these desperate acts? Is he the guy at the wheel at all? Right? So I have this theory, it's purely speculative, about whether or not Donald Trump's health prognosis is far worse than the public has been led to believe. I mean, I think we know it is, but I wonder if folks on the inside are the ones who are driving this really, really earnest is not the right word. Frantic, desperate, like there is no better synonym than desperate, this desperate push. They're overplaying their hand. They're jumping the shark when it comes to the rollout of their authoritarian agenda. When you crank that heat up too quickly, the frogs realize they're getting boiled in the pot, and that's what's happening right now. Very unstrategic, very poorly done, and it makes me wonder if maybe things aren't worse health-wise for Trump than we realize. Because we all know that J.D. Vance cannot hold the cult of MAGA together. Very uncharismatic, very unpopular, especially with Republicans in the Senate. Like they don't like J.D. Vance. So they might submit to Donald Trump. I don't see them doing that to J.D. Vance, and I don't see the American people as tolerating J.D. Vance as our dictator. Okay. And so the only way someone like Shorty Pants can hold on to power is if they've completely dismantled free and fair elections and if the people lay down and submit. So they're pushing really hard to scare us into submission and to make it very difficult for us to express our right to vote in the midterms, or to scare us into not voting, or to lead us to believe that elections no longer matter, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so on one hand, it's definitely not going according to Donald Trump's plans, but it's really not going to the Trump regime's plans. They put all of their eggs in the basket of a frail old man with the dwindles, and they thought that we were all going to lay down very quickly and surrender. They didn't anticipate a growing resistance, and they didn't anticipate how deeply unpopular Trump would become very, very quickly. The moves you are seeing now are not the moves of a secure government. The moves you are seeing now are not the moves of folks who are getting their way and for whom things are going well. Acts of brutality are not a show of strength. They are a show of profound weakness. And I don't know, maybe it's not either or. Maybe it's not Donald Trump is flipping the fuck out and he's pushing all of this, or the guys who run him are flipping the fuck out because they see the fact that he's circling the drain, and they also can read the writing on the wall when it comes to the midterms, and they're all afraid of being prosecuted. They're all afraid of going to prison for a real long time. I don't know, both things can be true at once. I think we have to understand as their power weakens, as they crumble more and more, they will lash out more aggressively. They will become increasingly brutal. That is a given, and we cannot misunderstand that as a sign of strength, because it's not. The only way to interpret the huge uptick in brutality and this just like rapid pace of really drastic actions that they're undertaking is accurately, which is to say that they are a sign of profound weakness and desperation, and that we have to continue to move forward, and we cannot give in, we cannot obey, we cannot surrender just because they are bullying the shit out of us right now, as it's all slipping through their fingers, as it's all crumbling for them, and they're lashing out at us. We must stay the course. We must stay the course. And also on some level be encouraged, because it's proof that they are failing. And so we must continue to run all the way to the finish line. We must continue to keep our pace all the way to the finish line and put these fucking losers in their place.